have the date at April 8th, and the time is 5:30. And we have set aside this time to have a work session with the board. There will be no official voting or business voted on during this work session, but this has been advertised, and I would ask if somebody would check the public comment sheet for me, Wesley. Well, I guess we can go on, even though it's something I don't necessarily have to do, but I'm going to ask the town recorder, Ms. Rachel, to take attendance for the work session.
Mayor Aiken.
Here.
Alderman Poole.
Here.
Alderman Schaefer.
Here.
Alderman Giannini.
Here, ma'am.
Alderman Herbert.
Here.
Alderman Beachy. Here. Alderman Lexi.
Here.
All right, Mr. Wesley, do we have anybody with, I know Mr. Bill was on there, but
Mr. Bill was on there,
he's got something for the regular meeting, not necessarily for the work session. So we don't have anybody else? Okay. All right. Mr. Town Manager, I'll turn it over to you. I'll turn it over to Wesley. Whoever
Here's a copy of the quick agenda. Did anybody get one? All right. Let's get through the introductions. We've already done that. Everybody knows everybody.
Why don't you introduce the gentleman to your left?
This is Mr. Ben Lensinger. He's our SSR engineer.
Good evening,
Engineer
guys.
from SSR, sorry. All right, competitive ARPA projects, Main Street Lift Station. We had our pre-con meeting with Chris Hill Friday before last. Kind of went over, gave us a quick timeline. I did not get a chance to print this off for everybody. Basically breaks it down in a 400-day project. They've already started submittals and stuff like that to us. We've already got the bid bonds back from them, the contract signed, all back from them. So they'll start doing their submittals for different things. Ben can kind of hump on that, talk about that for us. They will start breaking ground. According to his timeline, will be mid-March, maybe May-ish, and they're going to start on the well the first, digging the.
You mean mid-May?
Mid-May, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can pass this around, let y'all look at it. Just kind of get a brief overview of it. Broke down timeline of 400 days, and basically he just he put some days in there for extra days and stuff like that. So worst case scenario is what he said in our pre-con meeting.
400 is the worst case scenario?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we should be wrapping up hopefully about May of next year.
June of next year.
June of next year, I'm sorry. Got my days all mixed up.
Which gets us in plenty of time.
Gets us in plenty of time
September
for
30th.
September 30th deadline, 2026. Okay. So does anybody have any questions on that?
Are there any lengthy, like, times when they'll have to shut it down where people won't be able to use their?
No, sir. Well, this is going to be a working operation.
Yeah,
There's no interruption in service whatsoever.
right. He phased it such that he can build things and then switch them to the thing he built, if that makes sense. So we've gotta make a cut across the road, but none of that should affect long-term shutdown of sewer.
No. I think our biggest hurdle will be the pumps and the generators, which we all kind of know that timeline is kind of stretched. I think, matter of fact, Chris, can't think of his name, from Chris Hill was telling us, Andrew was telling us, I think he was, that timeline might have came down just a little bit, not much, but it's still like, what, 48-week leeway, somewhere like that, so. The first stage of the project will be digging the hole for the pit or the lift station as well, and he said it'd take about 100 days for that. And then in the meantime, while they're having the concrete cure for that, they will be working at Kearns, so trying to stay busy, staying on schedule.
Are there certain benchmarks where you, from a public works director and or you from SSR, said, hey, we want to make this inspection, you know, these?
We have talked about that in-house. We hadn't really sat down and sat down and put the benchmarks on them yet, but we will. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's an RPR on this, resident project inspector, so he will be with them as they're, you know, taking concrete test cylinders on the floor of the pump station, you know, there while the wall's done. So there's gonna be inspection going on the whole time.
Okay.
And that's part of our records that we are turning in on the ARPA side too. So it'll be pay outs, plans, and then the records of the testing and all that.
Anybody have any other questions on that? Okay, moving on to the Mead Lake FM replacement force main. We were talking about we're going to have to do some studies on the levees at Johnson, well, both Mead Lake ponds and the Johnson Pond as well too. Got that proposal with me for a second.
We have two separate proposals from UES, which is a geotech company. I think we talked to you about those in the past, that we had those.
Yeah.
What we would like to do is now talk about, it's time to execute them if we're going to, if that makes sense. So, one of them is $22,000 about, and one of them is $26,000 about.
Yes.
So, and basically what they're doing is levee stability analysis, okay? One of the things y'all, last time we talked about this in our previous work session, we gave y'all a couple different options on how to deal with that levee. If you remember, worst case scenario was actually draining the lake, building a separate levee to the, I guess that technically we're gonna call that the west, northwest, whatever direction that's running. That's worst case. Best case is do nothing. I think what y'all advised us to do was look at building, analyze the levee and then build up as necessary. Okay, so these proposals are to analyze that levee for stability. Tells us what we should do to it, long story short. So, same case up at Johnson Lake, you have the levee that, basically the road is the levee between the two. There's about a 4-foot-ish difference in water surface elevation of both ponds. Not this past weekend notwithstanding, okay? But it's kind of the same deal. It's a stability analysis. So they'll actually go drill some holes, do some soils tests, and some stability analysis to see how we need to approach. Can we trench this thing? Do we need to jack and bore it? Do we need to build it up? What do we need to do to it so that we don't compromise the integrity of that?
And y'all know too, the force main, we had planned on doing it with some of the ARPA money, but again, we kind of don't have enough money to cover that, so we had to do with, go with SRF funding. We submitted that in. We haven't heard nothing back on it yet. We submitted that, last 2 weeks ago.
It was due, I believe, the 10th.
The 10th, okay.
So they'll come out with a new ranking list, basically, is what that means. And then if you're on the ranking list, what you do is you'll move forward with your documents, and then you got to do your plans and specs, a facilities plan, an environmental review, which is kind of a desktop thing, and then estimates, and then you enter into a loan agreement. So for SRF.
I think that grand total was what, 12 million, I think.
I believe so.
Yeah. So with that 12 million, we was gonna replace the force main all the way from Kearns to Main Street. It was also adding the water and sewer at Walker Lake and Walker Parkway subdivision for the houses that the town had taken in about 20-something years ago. It was also for Forbes's lift station and Atkinson Park rehabilitating of lift station as well. So 2 lift stations in there as well, to rehabilitating of them. And also a little bit of the repaving of Mead Lake as well too, because we will be tearing that road up.
Yeah,
So,
replacing that force main.
so none of the ARPA monies are going to these projects because we don't have any available left over to push towards the force main project replacement. All right.
Questions about any of that?
It's just working its way through. Y'all,
Yes, sir.
y'all will come back later time when you got more to tell us.
Just another step in the process. Clark, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah,
As
Mr.
you walk
Clark
up?
showed up.
Y'all got it. Every time I come, y'all got it. I'm
No?
walking in, y'all got it under control.
Well,
All right.
all right. Okay. Well, like I said, I've got the proposal here, and I ain't had a really chance. I just got it Friday, so I just hadn't had a chance. I've been a little bit busy since then. We've got really kind of review over it and try to get in front of y'all next month board meeting, so we can talk about it. Guys, next on the list is number C, reimbursements. That's Miss Ellen. She can come up here and help us out right quick.
Okay.
Tag your name.
Currently, we have submitted for reimbursement, $403,000.
Ellen, excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, okay.
Come on, jump in.
Just for the new board members, could you kind of tell us who you are and who you're with and what you do?
My name's Ellen Canan, and I am with SSR. My title's grants coordinator. I helped, Clark and I are the ones that put together the application for the ARPA funds. So I'm just helping you guys stay in compliance with all of TDEC's requirements. Right now we are in the reimbursement process, and we have submitted for reimbursement $403,422. And we have received that. One of them is pending. The payment's pending for $22,000. So, but everything else has been received. We've submitted 3 reimbursements so far, and sticking to the monthly submission. That's as frequently as we can, but that's where we are with reimbursements. I just submitted the Chris Hill contract to be reviewed by TDEC, so hopefully we'll hear back on that, but it's not holding anything up. So yeah.
So far, we've gotten back 300,
No, 400.
400.
And
Okay.
3,000.
And we're hitting all the benchmarks that we're supposed to be hitting
Mhm.
so far. So we're rolling right along
Yep.
like we're supposed to.
Mhm.
All right, thank you. All right. Anybody have any questions about that? Shoot.
Mayor, may I ask a question?
Yeah.
Not back in reimbursements, but I do want to go back to one other thing. The building that we're housing this in, is it weather like tornado?
The building that we're
For
housing
the
this in
main
for the,
lift station?
for the force, the pump station?
Main Street.
For Main Street.
I wasn't in on the first part of it, so.
No, sir. It is a concrete building, correct?
The electrical room is just a regular, like a CMU block building. But the wet well itself, it would be mostly in the ground. There's not, like right now, the set of pumps you've got on there are called vertical turbine pumps, and they have elements that stick up above grade. They're in that little house. The new wet well, the new pumps will be down in the wet well, so there will be nothing above grade that needs to be housed. Now, we are providing you guys with a pump retrieval canopy that's going to help Wesley and those guys be able to pull those pumps and take them out for servicing a lot cheaper and easier than having to get a crane out here every time you need to pull the pump out. So that will be above grade, but the pumps themselves will be below grade, but none of them has been specifically designed around being tornado proof, or they've just been designed around standard building codes in the area.
Okay, so straight line winds, et cetera, heavy winds, heavy weather.
Like 120, I think is the,
Okay,
so, yeah, F3, F4 tornado, no.
okay,
Strong thunderstorm should be more than fine.
okay. Thank you.
All right, is there any other questions on that? I know we're kind of pushing for time here. I guess next on the agenda is number 3, be infrastructure planning grant projects. Clark, you want to hit on that?
Sure. So that's the series of 3 smaller projects within a different grant. This is completely separate from ARPA. It is administered through the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development. This consists of a water model, a sewer model, and an asset management plan. The asset management plan is sort of playing 2 roles here. We're getting it funded through the infrastructure planning grant, but it is also a requirement of the ARPA grant that's we've done previously. So the water model will enable us to see where we have pressure problems potentially, where we can tie on new lines and the implications of these new lines and new areas. It's going to help us to see where these problems are and potentially identify them before they actually become problems or before anyone but Wesley notices it. The sewer model, the same way, it's going to help us identify areas where we have capacity, areas where we don't have capacity, and where anytime anyone wants to add on to the system, it's going to help us see, yes, we can add on here without having to expand this infrastructure, or no, we'd have to upgrade certain lift stations or upsize gravity mains in order to accommodate this subdivision. Again, the asset management plan, it's just a tracker to help Wesley keep track of assets and their condition and the replacement of those assets, and kind of help ultimately formulate a capital improvements plan so that we can get these improvements budgeted and you can see them ahead of time rather than you can identify them before they break rather than afterwards. So that's kind of all those are rolled up into that infrastructure planning grant. Any questions on those?
I guess I would just ask, like Clark said, the asset management, we had a meeting in Covington today about the whole ARPA, where we're at, and the wastewater lagoon expansion. And so Clark and Ellen were both there with Mark and myself, and we were asked about where we're at on the asset management plan, and thankfully, good reason Clark was there, he was able to tell them we should, help me out now, the benchmark or the date for that's August 30th?
I believe the benchmark for that
It
is,
just has to be submitted by the end of the grant, so it's the end of September.
Okay.
So there's plenty of.
But
we'll have it done this summer.
we're gonna have it done, yeah, we should most definitely, maybe I was thinking you're gonna have it by August. Yeah.
Before, yes.
We've done, a good 90% of the sewer already.
Yeah, so a lot of the legwork for the asset management plans is identifying the assets, the serial numbers, condition, all those type of things. And all these things that we've had to identify to put in the water and sewer model also are going to feed into this asset management plan, into the asset inventory. So the effort that we've put into the water model and the sewer model just gets compounded in the asset management plan. So we've done a lot of the legwork already. Now it's just going to be putting the report together and sending it out.
And we have eyes from above, not the Lord, but the state, looking to make sure we've gotta have that. So,
Yes, because we got to have that a part of the ARPA project, asset management part of it.
yes.
So. All right, is there any other questions on that? Hear none, moving forward. All right, number 4 would be the TDOT stream mitigation project. I got an email back from Jason, his name's Brandon Garcia and Jason Fleming.
Yeah.
It's moving me, I apologize. They have since got their flood model study back from the third party. They're reviewing it. They reached out to me and Ben Friday about some dates set up, so we gave them a couple of dates because they want to come talk to us. And then once we talk to them, I'll get back with you on that. I don't have much to report on that. The reason why it's kind of dragging on a little bit is because me, Clark, and Ben met them out there, and we talked about how they wanted to move the stream and zigzag. Is getting more closer to houses, and we was talking about the flooding and all that stuff. Kept showing some pictures, and they had to go back and do a flood model study by a third party.
That's right.
that's where they're at on that. Hopefully we'll have something by next month, update on that.
You may tag me back in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Sounds good. Hearing none. All right, number 5 be the TAP grant.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So what we're doing is there's some parts and pieces to that. There's survey, there's NEPA, design, right-of-way, acquisition. So we've got some subs that are gonna do some pieces, survey, right-of-way acquisition. The only thing that we are waiting on at this point is a proposal from our right-of-way acquisition consultant. So we were supposed to have it this Friday. This will include, and the reason there was a delay is we gave them scopes, said here, this is where we're going to, and then we realized that the scope needed to be extended out to 51. We got that changed, we updated with them, they have to change their scope limits, if that makes sense. So that's the process we're working through. But you'll see that proposal you'll definitely have it for next board meeting. We should have it next week to you guys.
Any questions? All right. I guess number 6, multimodal grant.
So TDOT's consultant is in the process of developing those right-of-way plans. They reached out to us at the end of last week about project lighting and making sure that they match what Atoka is using in other places, specifically Nancy Lane, where the multimodal project ties in. We're gonna carry that lighting back. So what's gonna happen is we're gonna set up a meeting with Southwest Electric because they ask about 2 things. They ask about the fixture and they ask about the controls. Well, the fixture type we have examples of, and we have it in our subdivision regs. But the controls, we say, shall reference Southwest's specifications. So, and this is something that I owe them a response on. I agree with Amanda that I would respond to the consultant, and we're gonna tell them, hey, we're gonna set up a meeting and let's get together with Southwest. So next step is we have that meeting and get them where they're going on the lighting, and that progresses. So, if that makes sense. I'll also update them and get them to update the schedule on us. So they're supposed to have the design done this year. I wanna see if they're still tracking to do that. Any more questions about the multimodal before we move to Main Street?
I mean, we're not gonna run into any kind of time crunch. There's no.
No, yeah,
No.
Okay.
yeah, the state is on their own schedule. So, yes. So the Main Street roundabout,
Yes.
our surveyor
Did you get that earlier? I sent you, okay, just making sure.
got back with us and basically they've established to the best of their ability the property lines of the railroad out there. Okay, which allows us to say what right of way we actually need. Okay, as part of a take and an evaluation or a purchase, you have to say how much you're buying, but you also have to say how much a percentage of the whole. That's part of the damage calculation, right? So if I'm buying 5 square feet, but all you have is 6 square feet, I'm damaging you worse than if you have 100,000 square feet, I'm buying 5. Does that make sense? Kind of, sort of. So, by the Uniform Act, that's the way that works. That said, we have that survey now. He's told us what we got. So we are integrating that survey with our design and wrapping that design up. Plan is still to have that wrapped up this summer and out to bid. So what's gonna happen next is we'll take this survey, finalize the take. We're gonna present that to TDOT because the way that we're going is they're allowing us to go through a driveway permit, okay? Which allows the town to enter into a contract with the state, but without having to go and be through e-grants and all that kind of stuff, okay? So they're actually giving us a workaround to do this because we have this federal money in hand. So we've already presented our roundabout to them and already made adjustments based on their comments. This will finalize that, and then what happens is to finalize the driveway permit, we purchase the right-of-way in the state's name, and what we'll do is quit claim it over to the state because it's on the state route. and then they will allow us to construct. So, that's where we're headed. Questions about that? Don't leave anything out.
I don't think so.
All right.
I did, we want to talk about that, the numbers of it? How much?
I think you
got-
need to at least throw something out.
Okay. So we have reached out to Lane. Lane is our guy on this, engineering drawing on it with Ben. I reached out to Lane, got an update on numbers. He was showing about 580,000 with a 10% contingency on that right now.
Yep.
So that's where we're at.
Nothing's going down in price.
So the last budget work session, we set aside, we had the 300, we set aside 200. Very wise, because they're estimating 580, and that's just their estimate.
Yes.
That's not the construction, right? Yeah.
So y'all seen that we'll do an estimate. You go to construction months later and it is not the same. So,
I just hope your pencil's a little more sharper than
than the last time, me too. Yes, sir.
We agree. Does anybody have any questions around about? Anything?
When do we think that might go to bid?
We're gonna have the plans done probably middle of this summer. If we get through the state as fast as we think so, then we can go to bid this fall, like late or early fall.
So construction timeline, we think is what, once it's awarded?
That's a terrible time of year to start, but it's not going to take terribly long. There's not a lot of big drainage that has to be done. This is mostly grading, paving. That's really what, and subtracting and signage. That's really mostly what it is. So it shouldn't take long to build. It's possible if we have a good dry, warm fall, sometimes do, we could get this thing done before the end of the year. If we don't, then there's gonna be some point that the weather gets us and we finish in early next year. So, that's what I see now. If that changes, obviously I'll let
And
you.
of course also, contractor availability,
Yes.
Yes.
Hopefully we can speed that process up a little bit and try to do early summer. Any other questions? I guess number 8, general public items. Don't have much to report other than all the flooding we had last week. Everybody's seen that. The pond did overtop at the Millers, right there, the south pond. The levee's been checked by Lane. He checked it yesterday. We went out there, looked at it. We got a couple little spots, 2 little small spots, but nothing major. We are gonna do a little bit of work to that drainage outfall on it. We're gonna start that tomorrow. And other than that, we did have one culvert fail over on Elizabeth, which y'all kinda knew we put the plates on, but the flood took it away for us. The little spot on Walker Parkway, the dip has not gotten worse. It's about the same as it was beforehand. So we're keeping a close eye on that, which I've already talked with Lane and Ben to switch their efforts to go ahead and get the design up for the box culvert for Elizabeth. Kind of taken away from Walker Parkway to get on Elizabeth right now since this road is shut down. So we didn't put out much riprap. We had 3 little landslides on Mead Lake, small, probably about 10 yards in diameter, probably, little landslides. One did expose main, but no issues there whatsoever. We put some riprap on it today and yesterday, so. Got several potholes out there right now. We know we're gonna be firing up the pothole thing in the morning, so we'll be back out there on that, so.
Oh,
Awesome. Good deal.
Will Elizabeth qualify for FEMA money?
We're gonna apply for it. Me and Mr. Mark had talked about that already, I think Sunday, I guess we talked about that, so. We are definitely gonna apply for it. I don't see why it wouldn't,
What, do you remember was it the 2nd?
sir.
What day it fell?
The mayor's declaration had it
The
on
4th,
April 2nd.
yeah.
6th. So if it fell within there, it should be good.
Yeah, it was during the storm when it actually collapsed. I mean, I was gonna show you pictures, but we're not, I apologize, but I have pictures on my phone if you wanna see it.
That'd be a blessing since we're gonna need to do it anyway.
Yes, sir. It would be a blessing. That way we could, take that money we've got allocated for Walker Parkway and go ahead and get Walker Parkway done. So. Other than that, that's all I have, guys. Somebody have anything else? And take away.
Just thank you.
No, thank y'all.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let them know. Thank y'all.
Okay.
All right. Thank y'all for your time.
All right, Mark, turn it back to you or over to Ms. Amber.
I don't think we have anything else for the work session on the agenda.
Thought we were gonna go over the minor revisions in the wastewater.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
We can. If y'all will turn to your meeting packet, it's Exhibit A. It's at the back. I'm sorry, it's after Exhibit N.
Oh, very.
It's at the very back. It's the last 25 pages.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
So as the board will remember, y'all already authorized me to enter in and sign the agreement. What happened was, we've been trying to get Brighton to come up to speed, and Brighton wanted to make some minor changes, which Ms. Amber will talk about. They do have it on their agenda they're supposed to meet tonight, as we do, to approve the final version. And so that's why
Final.
we're revisiting it.
The final version.
Final. So that's why, in case y'all were thinking, hadn't we already done this? We have, but go ahead and say.
And so just for the benefit of our newer aldermen, I think this is the project that I have worked on since I became your town attorney. And so while we have been working on this, Brighton had an election just like we all did, and Brighton elected a new mayor and almost an entirely new board of aldermen. And so that institutional knowledge and all the meetings that we had had with the leadership of each town and municipality kind of went out the window. And so in doing that, their town attorney became a judge. And so they not only had a new mayor and new panel of elected officials, but then they also had a new town attorney. And so we had to kind of pivot from where we had been and account for all of their questions to this very complicated project and make sure that all their questions were answered, get the attorney up to speed on everything, and then give them time to meet and to make any more modifications that they did. And so the easiest way I know to go through this is just to kind of take y'all briefly through it and then make sure you don't have questions. What I would suggest you do is, as we go through it, if you have a question, just say, Amber, stop right there, I have a question. Because trying to remember it and come back to it is probably not the best use of our time. But basically what I did, the town of Atoka and Munford had an agreement, I think it was from 1985, that was a perpetual agreement. And what that means is that it could go on forever. And it called for a division of percentages of the wastewater plant and the lagoon that is currently existing in Munford. And so we divided those up, and then there was an agreement also with Brighton that they got a very small percentage of that lagoon. And Atoka and Brighton had another agreement that was 85-86. Again, it was perpetual, and it dealt with the force main that goes from Brighton to Atoka. And so in very simple terms, the way that wastewater flows from Brighton to Munford is through Atoka. And so Brighton joins into Atoka's force main. How much we have exceeded it. There have been arguments and disagreements about the working, like the accuracy of the readings from the various pumps that track the different gallons, and the intrusion into the wastewater pipes by water when it rains, and how much, I can't remember what it's called, F&O? I&I.
Influent infiltration.
Thank you. How much I&I there is in which town's capacity, and how much that has an effect on what goes into the lagoon and who needs to do what. So there's been a whole lot of this going on over the years. And really kind of what brought this to fruition, it was something we had talked about, but Munford issued a moratorium on any new connections in Atoka, and they had the right to do that under the agreement that was in existence at the time. And so we were able to work with Munford and get that moratorium lifted, and we have now all, pending your approval tonight and Brighton's, agreed on a new agreement that will replace the perpetual agreements. And instead of having 2 agreements, we have 1 agreement. And that is this beautiful 25-page document that I started typing 3 years ago. So basically what we're doing is we're incorporating the agreement between Atoka and Brighton as to the maintenance and the usage of the Brighton force main that connects into Atoka, and then all 3 towns are committing to new percentages on the expansion of the wastewater lagoon. So there's going to be an expansion under the old contract. If you were over in your capacity and there had to be additional capacity added, then if you were over and non-compliant with your percentage capacity, you had to foot the bill for the percentage that you were over. So we were over and Brighton was over. And so that's why you see that big expenditure in the ARPA funds, and thankfully we have that to pay for that expenditure, but we don't want to be in that position again. So we negotiated very hard for the percentage points that we got, and I'm really pleased with the capacity that we got. Right now what happens is there's a very complicated repayment system that goes on between the towns of operation costs that are passed back and forth, and we'll go over part of that, but we've streamlined a lot of that, and we have worked hard to ensure that there are safeguards, like the contract will not last forever. At no point in time will it last longer than the next 10 years. We will revisit it to make sure that everybody's doing what they need to be doing, because we have a large capacity for growth depending on Blue Oval and how it impacts specifically this municipality. And so we built in a lot of safeguards that we don't currently have in the agreement. So just beginning with page 1, these are all of the various recitations that you would see as you open any contract, just defining who everybody is. And so we talk about the old 1989 agreements, and then the second whereas, talk about how an amendment is necessary, and we talk about all the different issues, the recalculation of percentages, the cost of construction, the vesting of ownership rights, which was another hurdle that we had to cross, is how do we pay for something in another town or city, and how does that jive with what we need to do in our taxpayer dollars. And then percentage capacity, and then the method by which output to calculate percentages is measured. And so we lay out all the intentions on the first page and into the second page. The town of Atoka and town of Brighton, you can see at the top of page 2, are both funding the addition to Munford's existing lagoon. It adds an additional 1 million gallons. And so that's a significant expansion. And we also talk about who's going to maintain and operate that and how that's going to be dispersed back to the 3 municipalities in the agreement. And so section 1 is all the definitions. And so as you see the various terms throughout the document, you will see that if there's one you're not familiar with, that it's likely defined on page 2 and page 3. The definitions end at page 5. And so under page 5, article 2, you can see that the only way to modify the agreement is in writing. So that means that one mayor can't call another mayor up and just say, hey, don't y'all want to do this instead? Like, we have to have everything in writing for it to be valid and binding. And so every change has to be consented to by every party and reduced to writing and signed by all the mayors and adopted and approved by each governing body. However, we built in, like I said, a safeguard that the mayors can reach an agreement, kind of like we do in litigation, where the mayor can say, pending town approval, I agree. And so each of the mayors can get together for purposes of economy and come to a tentative agreement pending approval, and then they can each go back to their respective municipalities and get that approved. And so then Article 3 talks about the expansion of the water treatment plan, and it talks about the cost and how we delineate those. If you look at the top of page 6, paragraph 2, you can see that it clearly states that Atoka and Brighton are responsible for 100% of the costs and expenses. Mark has reduced those estimated budgeted costs down to a spreadsheet that's been approved. And that's been used in our ARPA submissions, and it talks about all the different categories that go into the expansion. And so we all work together from the same spreadsheet. And so, for authority over the phases of construction, we agree that all 3 municipalities have the authority over phases of construction. And that means that all 3 municipalities have access to all the documents, that one municipality can't hold documents to the exclusion of another one, that everybody's got free access. If there's anything that concerns us along the way, we don't have to fight to get it. We can get that pretty easily. And so, we each have a vote in that if there's a change in the scope of work, and each vote is an equal vote. And if we have a change order that comes up and one of the municipalities does not agree, the work is halted until a solution is reached. And so we talk about that. So we were really careful not to establish a precedence where one community could hold another community hostage. And so we have built all that into the contract the best that we could. In paragraph 4, we talk about depreciation expenses. Depreciation was something that we all discussed a lot in the negotiation of this contract, because right now, while Munford has depreciation on its current wastewater treatment system, that depreciation cannot be passed to us as a past cost. And so that cost can only be for future depreciation. So depreciation that occurs in the future will be passed on as operating expenses back to us. But there will not be any past depreciation assessed to the town, which was an important negotiation point that I feel like we did a good job in holding firm on. And so it clearly says that in the second sentence of paragraph 4. And so the way that we did depreciation was it begins after the completion of the wastewater treatment facility and the expansion, and it ends after 40 years. So it's a 40-year term. And it's included in the operation and maintenance calculation based on reserve capacity. And so right now, what happens is that each month, Munford has all the calculations of actual use, and someone at the city of Munford sits down and splits all of the actual use costs into percentages, and then assesses a percentage of that back to each town, either Brighton or Atoka, for their percentage of the operation and maintenance cost. And so the actual use is where we got into some disagreement. And so rather than have that be an ongoing problem, we all agreed to do that based on the percentage capacity. So even if we're not using our full capacity, we are going to pay one set percentage of operation and maintenance every month. And so that will permit us to budget better and have a more accurate expectation of what we're expected to pay. And we'll know what it is, and it won't be based on actual usage. And so it's based on our reserve capacity percentage and not actual use. Okay, everybody good so far? Isn't this like thrilling?
I know y'all can tell Amber loves talking about it, and we got like 11 minutes.
Okay, I can knock it out. So basically paragraph 5 just talks about the information exchanged during the construction phase, and paragraph 6 talks about the Atoka and Brighton agreement, and how we basically all picked the same kind of technology and the same kind of pumps, and everybody agreed to install new technology, so everybody's reads the same way, whether it's where Brighton hooks into Atoka or where Atoka goes into Munford. Everybody's going to read the same on each of the pumps. That's in theory what should happen. So then Article 4, paragraph 1 is the important paragraph. Well, it was the important paragraph, I'm sorry. This is the old percentage. It was 78.3, 11.7, and 10. And then the new percentages are on the top of page 8, paragraph 3, Munford 42, Atoka 46, and Brighton 12. So that is,
That's the goal.
that was the goal, was for us to get 46%, and we were pleased to hear that, or pleased to get that goal. And so we recalculated all of the percentage costs and assigned capacity. So then paragraph 4 of that section just talks about how this is what we think. This is what we think each municipality needs. In 24 months, we're gonna revisit the percentages and see if it's working for everybody, or if we need to adjust anything at that time. And then every 12 months after that, we'll do it again. And then if there are no amendments necessary after we meet a couple times, then we're gonna set those for 5 years. And so we're not locked into a long-term percentage, so if, like before, Munford had 78.3% and we were way over 11, depending, I don't know how much over, because it depends on who you ask, but we were over. And so we don't wanna be in that position again. So not only do we have 46% now, double the capacity that we did, but we'll be able to revisit that, and if that needs to be adjusted, say Brighton doesn't use as much as it has, or Munford doesn't use as much, or they need more, we'll be able to adjust that and work with those municipalities. And so, the maximum length of the agreement is 10 years, and then, paragraph 5 talks about the moratorium. If we're exceeding its percentage of wastewater capacity and its total capacity is over 90% for more than 15 days in a row, any one of the 3 municipalities can have the right to initiate a moratorium. We have to give written notice to the offending municipality and all the other ones. And then there's a whole appendix at the back that outlines the process for it at the very back. And it tells you exactly what to do. Mark came up with this, and I don't think there were any changes to it, and everybody agreed to adopt it. And so, the moratorium remains in effect until everybody brings their usage within its agreed percentage or comes up with a different solution. And so instead of just being one municipality that had the right to do it, now all 3 do. So the next really critical piece I want to point out is paragraph 9 on page 9. The cost and benefits of the Atoka force main also had to be recalculated when we recalculated the percentages, and so those have also been redone. And so that is the additional expenditure that Brighton and Atoka share between that force main that's separate from Munford. And so that's also in there, and so we do not have 2 separate agreements anymore. It's all subsumed into one. So let's see, we also define capacity in paragraph 12 on page 10, and then article 5 just talks about maintenance and operation. And it's basically what I've outlined, but we came up with a very clear way to define shared costs and how to allocate those between the municipalities, how to measure outflow, how to pay, how to pay in advance, you know, the kind of billing that we get, the kind of documents that we would get, all of that is in here. And then depreciation is defined on page 12, paragraph 5B, and it's new expansion costs only, and it's a proportionate share of the current and ongoing maintenance and operation costs based on percentage of ownership. And so it just goes through that process, and then Article 7 talks about metering between Atoka and Brighton, and then Section B talks about metering generally, and it's basically what I've outlined, but it talks about who's responsible for maintaining it, like all the things that you would expect. And then we do have to ensure that our sewer use ordinances are up to speed, and everybody's need to be the same enforceability. Like, we don't need to have one municipality that has one really outdated sewer use ordinance, and so we do need to check those and make sure that they are current. And so other than that, I think, if you'll look at page 17, this just talks about if we violate the agreement, we do have to pay attorney's fees and costs, and then go to non-binding arbitration. The reason we chose non-binding is because it does not foreclose your ability to go into a court. It's basically an effort pre-suit to work it out, and so that's in there. And then if that does not work, we're not bound by that, we can go into the court system. And then I think everything else is just miscellaneous. All of the catch-all provisions. Do y'all have any questions? So there are reports that are generated about how many gallons of output are seen every day, and it's a daily meter reading. And we would be able to extract out that information from.
First of all, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, staff. I mean, this is, you know, the moratorium itself was literally like, you know, having shackles on this town. But for our new board members, I'll just kind of the elephant in the room. So what we talked about is Mumford expanding their lagoon, which is one part of what we call a two-part system. So once that sewer is treated, then that water has to get to the Mississippi River. And from what we've been told, basically, I've heard $1 million a mile, or something like that, to get a new pipe from Mumford to the Mississippi. So we're about to make a massive investment to Mumford's lagoon. But Mumford has also told us, hey, we've got some alternative methods to take our existing main. I think they're maybe pressurizing some things or doing some other things. I don't want to call them out of the ordinary, but we are heavily relying on those working. And I guess I just want to get SSR's take on that and just kind of make sure that I don't know if there's anything we can do, but I just want to bring that out in the open. Right.
So a couple of things.
Yeah.
I believe there's 3 pressure relay stations that are designed to be installed between the Munford Lagoon and Toscan. So Munford has put a big through the force main discharge line through the river. And what that does is that cleans if you will, or just cleans the inside of the pipe. So you got a smooth bore pipe. They drag this device through it. It cleans the insides of the pipe and restores it back to being smooth. So then it can accomplish 2 things. 1, it can carry more volume. 2, it can carry that volume at a much lower pressure. So they think that that's going to be a big cost savings for the project, and along with the relay stations to get the waste all the way to the river, that's going to be the success. Now, I don't think there's any point of disagreement that force main's been in the ground for quite a few decades. So we're hopeful that those tests and changes and putting the relay stations in will make it last for years to come.
And they budgeted certain amount of repairs to the pipe. They have built in, I want to say it's 5 or 6 locations that if things were to happen, they kind of set that aside. But like Mark said, they've already done the pigging, they did the pressure testing, and apparently it went way better than they.
Oh, good. I haven't heard that. That's
Yes,
good.
yes. Yeah, they have done that. They were very pleased with the results of what it accomplished. The 3 relay stations are gonna be new, and their engineer was in the meeting this morning, and he's still feeling good about it.
Okay.
So,
Did I miss anything, Clark?
So,
Pretty good.
you got
pretty
1
good
minute,
recap.
Clark.
I snagged a couple things from the meeting today, if y'all could get one of the meeting.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay.
Did you have anything from what you heard, Clark, just ballpark?
The meeting was, what they said in the meeting was successful. I do think that's probably gonna be something they need to plan on doing. It's just gonna be a one-time thing. As wastewater gets continued to pump through that line, that scale that gets that builds up in that line is gonna redevelop, and they're gonna need to repig it at some point in the future. But again, I think they said that they can do a lot of pigging for the $11 million they threw out there to replace that line. So
And that'll be something as well that we'll be looking at on the Atoka force main. So what that means is where the facility is at McDonald's, that's where Brighton comes in, and Atoka that's where we converge. And then Atoka owns from that point all the way to the lagoon. So that's something that we may evaluate in the future, as we have a percentage of that, and we have a partner in Brighton to help fund those things moving forward. So that's something that we'll be looking at on that particular section of the force main.
Good job.
Any other questions for Amber, Mark, staff, anybody?
The other thing I think it's important to note is that as we move into the future, the reason we designed this agreement not to be any longer than 10 years is so we could look to regionalization, alternative means, like, there are a lot of options out there. None of them have exactly come to fruition yet, but we're not tied down into another perpetual agreement. And so I think Munford has already voted on this, or they're going to vote on this. I can't
They're in a
remember.
similar situation.
Yeah, I don't know if they're
Yes.
gonna
They've authorized
it or
the mayor.
not.
Yeah, but all the attorneys and we think all of the, elected officials will not, like, they're gonna have the same conversations that I'm having with y'all, with their respective elected officials. So,
And the one, I think y'all got the email, the one word change since you saw it last time.
that's right.
Was on page 10, the last sentence.
That's right.
So literally a one word change.
And no more words are being changed.
This is the final.
We're done. This is the final.
All right, well, gentlemen, I've got 6:27, we're gonna say that this concludes our work session. We will convene our April board meeting in 6:30. Thank you. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming to this is the April monthly board meeting of the Board of Mayor and Alderman. My name is Mayor Barry Aiken. On behalf of the Board of Aldermen, the Town of Atoka staff, I would like to welcome you tonight. We appreciate that each of you has taken time out of your very important schedules to be here to see how the Atoka Town government works. When you came in tonight, there were 2 sign-up sheets back there by the door. One of them is to record your attendance in the meeting, gives us your address. If you need, we need to get back to you for any reason whatsoever. And if you have something that you would like to address to the board tonight, there is a second sheet that says public comment at the top of that sheet. That would be, you need to make sure in the few minutes that is coming up, you got your name on that public comment sheet. And when we get to that part of the agenda, I will ask them to bring me that sheet. I will call your name, ask you to come up here to the podium, and just again state your name and your address. And then we'll give you 2 minutes to whatever you have to comment to the board. Of course, we would ask for respect and a good decorum, and profanity will not be tolerated. And after that 2 minutes is up, we think that gives you plenty of time. That gives time anybody else that wants to talk, and then we can continue with our meeting. After that public comment period is over, that is the only time for you to address the board. And of course, you are welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. We encourage you to stay as we go about doing the town's business. Again, welcome to the board meeting tonight. We are glad that you're here. As we do with every one of our meetings, we're going to open up with a word of prayer and the pledge of allegiance to our flag. I've asked Pastor David Stewart, Pastor David, if you come up here to the podium. Pastor David's with the Atoka Methodist Church. I do appreciate him and for everything that the church does for our community. So, for those of you that would like to participate, we ask you stand at this time. I'm going to turn it over to Pastor Stewart, and then we'll do our pledge of allegiance.
Let us pray. God, we're grateful for those who come to serve our community and to work together towards a common goal. We ask for guidance and wisdom as they navigate the challenges and opportunities that lie before us. May the decisions being made by this body be guided by the needs and values of Atoka, Tennessee. May our officials always strive to act in the best interest of our residents. May these discussions be respectful, the actions just, and the outcomes beneficial for all involved. And tonight we ask you to watch over this meeting and continue to watch over our community as we remember our command to love our neighbors as ourselves. We just ask you, God, continue to bless Atoka. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you again, Pastor David. Today is Tuesday, April 8th. I have the time at 6:39 p.m. I'll call this meeting to order. And I would ask the recorder, Ms. Rachel, to do our roll call.
Mayor Aiken,
Here.
Alderman Lightsey,
Here.
Alderman Beachy,
Here.
Alderman Harburn,
Here.
Alderman Giannini,
Here, ma'am.
Alderman Schaefer,
Here.
Alderman Poole.
Everyone is present. We do have a quorum to conduct the town's business. And Chief Rudolph, if you bring me that public comment sheet, that's the next order on our agenda tonight. Thank you, sir. Mr. Bill Austin. Mr. Bill, come on up to the podium, sir. Good evening.
Bill Austin, 55 Clay Cove. I have 2 questions. One is, what happened to our side on the highway? City of Atoka.
Is that northbound, southbound? What are you
Yes.
talking about, Mr. Bill?
One northbound, south end of town.
Yeah, Public Works pulled those down, with the new branding, Mark, with the approved new branding, so
Oh, okay.
they didn't fit with the approved branding, so we removed those.
Okay, we're gonna put new signs up.
We will, and I believe what the plan is to repurpose the sign at the three-way, is to reuse those materials at a location somewhere on the northbound side of 51, yes, sir.
Good, good. My other question is the road out here. It's got potholes all over it. Are we gonna get that paved when we do the roundabout or what?
Well, that's a great question, Mr. Bill. I think,
I know it's a
Public Works
state highway.
Director Wesley said that he's actually starting that tomorrow morning.
Yes, but that is actually a state road.
Right, I realize.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I contacted them yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Chief just reminded me too, they had made an announcement they're gonna repave that entire road in 2026. What they say. Right around the corner.
If we can
Yes.
make that. All right.
Mr. Bill,
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bill, going back to your first question,
Yes, sir.
we are gonna remove the rather ugly sign that's there now, and just to kind of be Trump-like, it's gonna be a big, beautiful,
Good,
new
good.
Atoka sign.
Great.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad you heard that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Can you clarify what sign are you talking about?
Northbound on 51, kind of past the flea market, where it shows the town of Atoka.
On the right side of the road.
Two
It's
red.
on the right side.
A town of Atoka
Yeah.
sign?
Yes, ma'am.
It's a pretty plain Jane sign there it was. There's nothing spectacular.
Not in the least. I believe I'm reading this right. I've got, I think Mr. Scott McDaniel. Is that right, Mr. Scott?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Scott McDaniel, 1085 Faulkner Road.
Yes, sir.
My question to y'all, Chief, how you doing? Mr. Brett, how you? The drainage ditches and culverts in the city of Atoka. I've been after this, my wife's been after this for the last 3 years, coming off of Faulkner Heights and all that. Nobody maintains your culverts. So the culverts are stopped up in the city and they're backing up and flooding the roads. And if my wife has got pictures, and we've been here and showed them and showed them and showed them, but I don't know if we showed them to the right people. But just washing my property away, it's like a river when it rains. I know the rain was bad here not too long ago, a couple days ago, but I've been doing this for the last 2.5 years. If y'all ain't got nobody to take care of the culverts, I'm for hire. I can run quick. Give me a truck and a man and a piece of equipment, I'll take care of you. But we're tired of it.
Mr. Scott, you talking about a culvert or a ditch on your personal property?
No, sir.
Okay,
On the
you're talking
city's property. I live in the county. One side of Faulkner Road is the city of Atoka. The other side is Tipton County. I live on the county road. My family's been in the same house since 1973. But the property across the road is where the water is backing up and coming across the road, flooding the road out because y'all just had a lot of flooding. But this happens every time we have a hard rain. Whether it's a 20-minute rain, a 30-minute rain, or a 5-day rain.
Okay.
We want something done about it.
Okay.
And
Well,
that's
we
what I
will,
got.
so we got your address, 1085 Faulkner Cove. Mr. Wesley?
I've already spoken with Mr.
Yeah.
Scott. I was gonna go see him in the morning.
Okay, all right, so
I appreciate that.
we're gonna have, yes, thank you for coming.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
Making us aware.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
So in situations where, Mr. Faulkner's culvert is not getting, is overflowing into his yard, what happens where other properties in town when they're, I understand that each landowner is responsible for their own culvert, but if they're not maintaining it, and then it floods out into public roads, how do we hold those people accountable? Do we hold them accountable?
Look at Miss Amanda, our code enforcement director.
Yes, there's a natural
Would
flow.
you come up to the podium, Miss
Sorry.
Amanda?
I'll go back, I gotta tell you what the county does about the culverts in the county on people's property. They maintain the culverts, the county does. Cause they come out and maintain some culverts on Faulkner Road that are in the county.
Entire-
property owners
Our entire town.
purchased the culverts, and they do maintain them
What can be
because
done
they
to
want
that?
to filter out the flood.
So that ought to be the way with any city municipality that has a community like y'all have. They should be, Public Works or whoever, or if the different departments should be handling that. Most towns and places that I've worked for or been through, and because I've done several different jobs, they maintain the culverts. Every Public Works department in every other town that I know about, except for Atoka.
So I believe, well, you want to restate your question there, man?
Yes, Ms. Van. My question was, is that what do we do for the town of Atoka, for other culverts that are owned by our citizens? How do we police that essentially if their culverts on their properties are spilling water out into the roads causing flooding and it's a result of negligence, not cleaning out culverts? How do we handle that?
So, as far as TCA, it's not, but there's a natural flow rule that there has been case law that stands up on if the water has to go through and you have to allow it to pass through your property. So if you back it up and it's causing, or if you alter the natural flow of that, then we have the ability to show them that they are in violation and they need to correct the issue.
And how often do we go around? I mean, obviously this past weekend with all the rain, there was flooding everywhere, but in normal situations where we just have like a day or two of rain, do we go out, or is it just when someone brings it to our attention, hey, there's a lot of flooding coming, this culvert's blocked up, no one's cleaning their culvert on their property?
So as far as code violations, we usually go off of complaints, unless it's something drastic that comes to, like I have one that actually I viewed myself through the rain event, and we're moving on because there was definite change and they altered the natural flow, so we're addressing that. We will have to look at that situation on Faulkner, for instance, to see how, where it actually connects and where that fail is, because it runs down, Does that make sense?
Thank you, Mayor. All right, that concludes our, that's the only pick we had on the public comment sheet. We'll go to the next item 4 on our agenda, and this is our consent agenda. This is where we have several items, and all matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine, will generally be enacted by one motion, except for any item that a board member feels they want to remove and pull it out of the consent agenda. Board, you have Exhibit A through J in your packets, and I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Alderman Giannini. I'm sorry.
A through J.
A through J. I have a motion by Alderman Giannini. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Alderman Schaefer. Any minor discussion about those exhibits? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting the items in the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we will enter those into the approved record. Item 5 on our agenda tonight is old business, and we have none. So we will go to item 6, new business, and I have a proclamation. Brittany, come on up. One of the things we've been doing now for several years is April is Blue and Green Day in the Mid-South. Has to do with tissue and organ donation. And I've got a proclamation that I'm going to read. Miss Brittany Kinney is here tonight on behalf. You just go ahead, Miss Brittany. Tell us about yourself or anything.
I am I actually work at Brighton High School. I've been the HOSA advisor there and health science teacher, clinical instructor for the past 6 years here in Tipton County. I actually was at Mumford and then now I'm at Brighton. So, but we also work every year with Mid-South Transplant in order to promote Blue and Green Day, which is always in April. April is Organ Donation Awareness Month, and April 11th is our Blue and Green Day Mid-South. And so we just try to promote it and promote organ donation. We have over 4,000 people on the transplant list here in the Mid-South that are awaiting transplants. So we are trying to help that grow and save lives through organ donation.
Did a wonderful job. Mr. Henry Suter, I thought he was going to be here tonight. When we did this last year, Mr. Henry actually got up and said that he is actually a recipient and that he is here today because of, I think he got some tissue that he had grafted or something. But so it hits close to home, and I'm going to give you some facts by reading this proclamation. But we are just trying, as we do with our proclamations, we're trying to increase awareness. And I think that they have done, I know I've seen at least about 5 or 6 of those blue and green signs. And you're talking about an organization, grassroots, that does a great job of promoting and advertising. I think the Mid-South Transplant Foundation does that. So we're going to read this tonight. And Miss Brittany, oh, by the way, another little tie-in with Atoka. Miss Brittany is the wife of Devin Kinney, one of our firefighters. So we just really appreciate the Kinney family being here. So, all right. Whereas the town of Atoka recognizes the importance of organ and tissue donation in saving lives and giving hope to those in need. And whereas April 11th, as Ms. Brittany said, marks Blue and Green Day Mid-South, a day dedicated to improving lives through organ and tissue donation and ending the wait for those in need of organ or tissue transplants. Through the Mid-South Transplant Foundation that has been connecting lives through organ donation since 1976, raising awareness about the critical need for organ and tissue donors. And whereas the generosity of donors and their families, countless lives have been saved and improved with more than, say it again, 4,000 people in the Mid-South waiting for a life-saving transplant. And whereas the Mid-South Transplant Foundation is part of the national Donate Life, America's month-long Donate Life campaign, is bringing local awareness to the need for organ and tissue donation. We need your help turning the Mid-South blue and green. Join us for Blue and Green Day Mid-South. Again, that's April 11th, 2025. Now therefore, I, Barry L. Aiken, Mayor of the town of Atoka, hereby proclaim the month of April 2025 shall be observed as Blue and Green Month in the town of Atoka, and I urge all citizens to use this time to educate and encourage discussions among your families and save lives in the Mid-South by inspiring others to register as organ and tissue donors. Now we further commend the Mid-South Transplant Foundation for its continued success in helping families, improving lives through organ and tissue donation, and we urge full public support of their successful efforts. Thank you. Devin, you want to get up here? You got a good Zoom back there?
Caroline, come take that picture real quick.
Come on, Caroline.
Take it. Just take, no, just take it. Yeah. You got it?
Did you get it good? You want to let Mom see it?
Good job, Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Our next, under new business, we have ordinances and resolutions, and we have our first consideration of our fiscal year 2026 budget. This is Exhibit L in your packet. Mr. Town Administrator, do you want to give us some info on that?
Yes, sir. Briefly, the ordinance that you have in front of you is a result of a few work sessions that the board has held. This budget is presented and was presented to the board with no property tax increase. As you can see that there are several items there for the general fund. We're looking at 10.1 million in general fund revenues. We're looking at 876,000 in solid waste, 378,000 in State Street aid, 50,000 in drug fund. Also, water fund revenues are expected at 1.6, and sewer fund revenues are expected at 3.6. So that's the 3.6 sounds like a lot, but we've got grant revenues that have to be accounted for and expended. So that's why there's a large number there. We will hold a public hearing for the second consideration on May the 8th, and can answer any questions that you have at the moment.
I guess I would just like to add, there are some, as the town administrator said, there's no tax increase in this budget, and we are able to increase our public safety officers, our park and rec. We've got money set aside for some major projects. I don't know if any of y'all were here for the work session, but our new roundabout that's going to be going in at Main Street and Atoka, Mumford Avenue. There's some really good stuff in the budget. I think it's a good budget for the town of Atoka, and very forward thinking by the board.
A couple of specifics there. We're adding one police officer, one firefighter, several new vehicles for police and public works, and one for fire. We've got money that are going to be committed, as you saw in the ordinance, that are going to be committed to the roundabout project. We're hoping that, as we heard at our work session, that cost estimates are a little higher than what we expected, but we did expect it to be higher than what we initially anticipated when the $300,000 was set aside. So hopefully that those cost estimates are going to come in a little bit lower than what we expect, and if they do, then the board will be able to reallocate those funds to something else, even in the middle of the new fiscal year with an amended budget.
But with the engineer's estimate, I'll be very surprised.
We'll see.
We were also able to address recruitment and retention.
Yes, sir.
Very,
That
very,
was
yes, sir.
a big deal, because, the ones we have deserve it, we want to keep them, and, I appreciate everybody's hard work in bringing us a budget without a tax increase.
Okay. As this is the first consideration of the ordinance, is there any objection to reading the ordinance by title only? Hearing none, Ms. Recorder, would you please read the ordinance by title?
An ordinance of the Town of Atoka, Tennessee, adopting the annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025, and ending June 30, 2026, and other related revisions to the Atoka Municipal Code of Ordinances.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance for this first reading?
So moved.
Have a motion by, Alderman Poole. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Alderman Geechee. Any discussion?
I have one item I would like to make an amendment, if I can, and that's just to reduce the Durango vehicle from 65 to 56,227. Put that remaining round about 9,000 back into savings. We got the quote back today, and that's what the quote is. That's for the vehicle and the accessories that go to it. It's 56,227. We had 65 budgeted.
So that's a motion to amend.
To amend, that's correct.
Okay, I have a second on the motion to amend. We have a motion by Alderman Giannini, we have a second to amend by Alderman Lightsey. Discussion about that line item. Okay, all in favor of approving, would you restate that, just so everybody's clear?
Just to reduce the cost of the fire chief's vehicle from the budgeted 65,000 to 56,227.
With the remaining going into the
With the remaining going in the savings, correct.
Okay.
Savings or towards the roundabout?
Well, we can decide later, but I mean,
I didn't
just
have
for
to
the
work.
sake of right now, just to get it through.
Okay.
Yeah, just put it in the savings, and there's some other things I want to talk about if we can have another budget discussion that's running through the state legislature that we may need to look up for it. So,
All right, we have a motion to amend. We have a second on amending that. All in favor of amending the original motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now, with that being done, we have our original motion by Alderman Giannini and our second, by Alderman Poole, and our second by Alderman Deitch. All right, since this is the first reading, it is an ordinance, we're going to do this by roll call. I'm going to start down to my right. Alderman Lightsey.
No.
Alderman Deitch.
Yes.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Alderman Giannini.
Yes.
Alderman Schaefer.
Yes.
Alderman Poole.
Yes.
Okay, the motion doesn't pass, and on the first reading. We'll come to Exhibit M, this is the mic in our packet. This is the first consideration of our water and sewer rates. Mr. Town Administrator.
Yes, sir. First consideration of your rates. So staff has reviewed the rates. Our cost of purchasing water from Poplar Grove and Munford are going to increase by about 7.8 cents. So you'll see that reflected in your Section 1 water rates. That is the only change there. Under sewer rates, we didn't make any changes to sewer rates as far as the consumption and usage. We have the adjustments to connection and tab activation for accounts and relocation, penalties, equipment fees, and connection fees. You can see the changes there, very minor in red versus what the current fee is in black.
Is that something they sent you, saying they're gonna raise them, or what? Or did I
Yeah,
miss it?
we know what their rates are gonna be, I think, for the next 2 years on top of this year. So through 27, we'll know every July 1 what our rate is gonna be per 1,000
Did
gallons.
we get that?
No, I haven't. I'd be happy to send it out.
Okay, yeah, 'cause I hadn't seen it.
Poplar Grove did meet with us, I believe, last year, and they stated that there would be an increase, I believe, at least the next 2 years. I'm not sure, but this would be in line with what they.
Right, but we hadn't seen it yet,
So, okay.
So these rates for the connection, the activation, all this is coming, increases from Poplar Grove?
Negative. The only adjustment in your ordinance that is a reflection of our water purchasing is in your water rates under the each 1,000 gallons. So we go to $4.71, 4.713 cents per 1,000 gallons. The other rates that you see in your tap fees, et cetera, those are just increases in costs and fees and equipment. So that's just keeping pace with the increases in expenses and costs.
Okay, penalties and service fees, I still don't. Fee to activate, fee to restore, those are $50 difference. And they're after business hours, why $50?
I'll tell you what, Alderman Poole, let's do the, get a motion in a second, and then we can talk about that in discussion. Okay. All right, so is this the first reading of this ordinance? Is there any objection to reading it by title only? Hearing none, Ms. Recorder, would you read the ordinance by title, please?
An ordinance to amend Title 18, Chapter 4, Section 403 and 404 of the Atoka Municipal Code related to water and sewer service rates.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve Exhibit M in your packet?
Motion to approve?
Okay, I have a motion by Alderman Deitch. Do I have a second? Hearing none, the exhibit fails, and we'll have to revisit this at the next meeting. So, go ahead, Alderman Poole. You got some issues you want to bring up?
Yes, sir, I do. Section 5, penalties and service fees. Fee to activate service after business hours, fee to restore service after business hours. Why is that a $50 difference?
So the fee to activate service is if they come in after our on-call or public works department is off, they're out by 4:30. So if someone comes in, because we're still open until 5:30, so if
Right.
someone comes in at 5 o'clock, their water's off because the previous homeowner or renter had the service terminated, they need water. So they'll have to, the person that's on call is now getting paid that extra to come out to help cover the cost of that overtime that they're getting due to coming out.
Okay, so the cost is the same if they get called out for each one, correct? Why would it be a $50 difference? You're calling them out. And why, that's what I'm trying to figure out here is you're calling that person on call out. And just because it's to activate, it's $50 less than restore, and you're still calling the guy, whoever it is out.
So to activate the service, it's not locked. All they have to do is get the reading and turn it back on. When service is disconnected due to non-payment, the meter is, there's a picture taken of the meter. The meter is locked so that the current homeowner, renter isn't able to use that water since they have not paid that current bill. So they have to unlock the meter and all of that.
Okay.
So one involves the dispatching of personnel, one does not. Can we say that?
We don't dispatch for the after-hours restore.
Right.
The homeowner or the renter does that by calling the on-call phone number to pay them to have it come turn back on.
So to activate, you still have, to activate, the on-call person still has to go to that residence, correct? Okay, so they're both going to the residence. Why is it still $50 difference? It's the same manpower, same amount of time, same bill.
The reason why we did that is because during cutoffs, our overtime was through the roof. You had several customers that you had what we call the normal customers that would call, and he would get 5 or 10 calls at that night. And so we raised it up higher to cover the overtime cost expense, and sometimes lower that number of people calling in after midnight or 10 o'clock or anything like that. So that was voted on by the board 5 years ago when we did the increase of that rate for the restore after hours. So it's helping to cover overtime cost and eliminate the more call-outs that the gentleman or on-call guy was getting at that time. Used to, or in the evening times, we would get phone calls to 10, maybe 15 times a night to restore services. And we were not covering that overtime cost. So we've raised that to what it is now. Atoka, sir. And they get a 2-hour minimum, yes. So it has eliminated the after-hours call and of people wanting to restore their services for non-payment.
If I just wanted to activate service, if I move to Atoka Saturday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I can get my water turned on?
No, sir. No, sir. You still have to go to town hall, through town hall.
Right.
To have that. Now, if you want to schedule something after hours, say you want to come home
I
at
just saw the
5:30,
fee
6
to
o'clock.
activate service.
Yes.
Like, not a cutoff, but I move
No.
to town and activate, or we
Activate
do
to
that?
activate from a customer change or customer turning on services.
Right.
Restore is from cutoff.
Wesley, can you come up here to the podium, please? While Wesley's coming up,
Do we even need the fee to activate after hours? Can we even do that?
or maybe,
Yes, we do.
or maybe, and I wanna try to maybe help this. What is the main difference, whether it's Rachel or you, between activation and restoring? Because,
After hours, right?
yes, this seems to be,
So,
what's the difference?
Activation goes through town hall, talks with the ladies, you bring in all your paperwork, so on and so forth, and you activate your services.
How
You
do
set up
do that?
services.
How do you do that after hours?
Now, the after-hour service fee was when we were running from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, we would have people that wanted to have service turned on after 5:30 would come in, and then we were trying to cover that overtime cost. So they came up with a cost estimate of $75. That was a few years ago. So jumping to another thing, to the restore is from cutoffs. So used to, we average between 40 to 60 cutoffs a month. After hours, because I ran call for years, you would have the people call after 5 o'clock, after 6 o'clock, after 10 o'clock, whatever. And we were having all these overtime hours, and we were not recuperating any of that money. So they came up with this cost estimate of $125 for after hours fee to restore your service, to cover the overtime costs. And basically it really took from having maybe 5 to 10 calls a night to drop it down to 1 or 2. Because people were kind of abusing that after hours call. Your regular customers, I guess, so to speak. But it's up to the board's discretion. However y'all want to go, we'll go either way y'all want to go.
I got a question on that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Chief Poole or Alderman Poole? You want to
I
follow
don't see
up?
the difference in the activation and the restore. I don't. You're paying a guy the same amount of overtime, the same vehicle. I don't.
I still don't know how we're activating that. Right?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, sometimes
Maybe
they will email it, the activation will email it or talk to them, and then want one of us to come in after hours. Like say
Because
they get off at
maybe
6,
they're working in
6:30,
Memphis.
maybe they're working in
Say,
Memphis.
Can y'all do it at 6 o'clock
Yes, sir.
tonight?
And we've had-
7 o'clock tonight.
It might be a handful through the year. I mean, it's a very rare minimum, but they will like, hey, can you come at 7 or so on and so forth? Because I want to make sure everything's okay.
We'll make sure the house not
Yes.
flood when you turn the
Yes,
water on.
yes,
Makes sense.
Okay, so the overtime is still the same.
yes.
Okay.
2 hour
Why
minimum.
not charge the same?
It's up to your discretion. The board said it many years ago, and it's been the same way.
So, with 2 hours minimum, right? So
Mhm.
if you get, say, 2 cutoff calls, and you have to send back, so do they get 4 hours? Or
No.
do they do it within that same 2 hours?
If they doing that same 2 hour time frame, they just get paid for what time they're out there. Yes.
So you still charge the double, say, $100 extra for the same 2 hours, correct? Instead of 50, you're
Yes.
charging $100, but it's the same, they're already paid the 2 hours anyhow. The
Yes.
employee is.
Yes.
So I got a question on the activation fees.
Mhm.
You got 75 to activate after business hours, but in section 4, the standard price is 85, so it's cheaper to activate after hours according to.
I don't have it in front of me, so I can't speculate on that.
What's the services? 4 and 5 is concerned.
4 and 5.
So section 4 is normal activation.
Yeah, that's an 85.
Right, for new service, 85. So they would get that if they want to do it after hours, they get that 85 already,
And then it's
plus
additional.
that additional.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And when we let people know that there's this extra fee applied, and they know that they have water already, they're like, well, can I just get it first thing in the morning? So it helps alleviate them being like, well, no, I want it on at 9 o'clock.
Do we know how much this is gonna generate or expect to generate?
I don't have those guys.
No. On the restores, like I said, it average, on cutoffs, we usually have 40 to 60 on cutoff day. And then you've got that handful, half of that will call in the time before 4:30 or before 5:30 or what have you. And then you might have 1 or 2 restore that night. It just really depends, honestly. I mean, there's no way to average. I mean, I guess you can do 2 times.
So where do we come up with the numbers at?
To be honest with you,
Is that just a round number to maybe
Sir?
go up $5 or?
yes.
If the board wants to propose different fees for section 5, I mean, for anything really, but the only thing I would caution is we're just not getting our water sewer rates in order. They're getting in the black, and we're out of the state's microscope. Please be mindful of, we don't want to start losing money.
And that's exactly why I have questions, because we are in the black.
There you go.
Raised rates the last few years, quite a bit actually. And so now we're coming back at it again, and that's why I just have some more questions before I can approve this.
We're looking at just to tackle this a little differently. Looking at the financial sources in our budget for 2026 that we just did our first approval on. We're talking about fines and forfeitures, 139,000. Does the fines and forfeitures, does this, the late after hours fee and all that such, feed those fines and forfeitures?
Yes.
Okay. So we're already accounting for money, I get it. We're increasing it, but we didn't increase any taxes this year, right? And taking away money may not be a great idea. We just paid back $9,000 on the truck. We adjusted our insurance, and we got more money into us that way. We're talking about, how much you said, 40 a month maybe right now? How many people a month, ballpark?
Ballpark, 40, 60, it just varies.
Okay, so
There's usually, well,
150 times 40 is $6,000 a month. Times 12, $72,000.
How much is it?
Go ahead, you cut a check. This is
I'm
a source of revenue for it now.
So the motion has failed. I mean, what is the board's, we have to press forward. What is the board's prerogative on this?
Mayor, I suggest we try to meet between now and the next month's meeting.
Okay.
Try to hash this out. As you said, it did not pass tonight.
Okay.
Failed. That would be what I would recommend, but that would be up to the rest of the board.
I agree, and I'd like to also, since we're gonna be meeting already, throw in a little, budget workshop too.
Well, we can talk about, whatever we put on that session, work session, so. Okay, I'll ask tonight, but if you have stuff, if y'all need information from staff about these numbers, before the work session, be sure to get that turned in, to Mark, and that way we can, they can provide y'all with answers to, evaluate these fees. Okay?
Thank you, Leslie.
thank y'all.
All right. Next on our ordinance and resolutions, we have resolution Exhibit N. It's had to do with our work session tonight. Ms. Amber gave us a good recap, but this would be, it concerns our wastewater agreement. Mr. Town Administrator, you want to add anything to this?
Well, I don't know, that was a pretty comprehensive discussion at the work session. I guess the biggest takeaway is that Atoka has secured the largest capacity at the wastewater lagoon. And then we've got additional triggers and provisions in there to protect our utility customers in the Appendix A. So moratorium triggers what happens when this is gonna happen. So there's different provisions in there for that. I'm sure you've all reviewed those, so you can try to answer any questions that you have.
So what this resolution does, it states in section 1 that in section 1 you approve and accept the wastewater agreement. In section 2, you authorize me, the mayor, to execute, sign it on the town's behalf. Do I have a motion about the resolution?
So moved.
A motion by Alderman Cooley. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Alderman Schaefer. Any questions or discussion? Because Ms. Amber is dying to answer those. All right, hearing none. All in favor of Exhibit N resolution, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that carries. And that finishes our new business for the evening. Next on the agenda, miscellaneous items from the mayor, board of alderman, and town administrator. I'll go first. I would just like to say an enormous, again, to Team Atoka. We had the Barbecue Fest this previous weekend, and it was an experience to say the least. We had, I don't know how many tornado watches, tornado warnings, I don't know how many inches of rain. And ultimately, around 1 o'clock on Saturday, we had to do a mandatory evacuation of all the barbecue teams at the park. That went off excellently. The safe room was activated many times for our citizens. I'm glad we have. We had people right here in this room, hundreds of people. But with Dorothy, with everybody, it is just a huge undertaking. Don't know if they've fully recovered even yet. I think we're still getting, are all the trailer, or is everybody out of there?
About 90%.
Yeah.
But it looks like we had a large mud fest out there right now, so.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'll talk Public Works into go rolling it out a little bit, so we don't have backbreakers on Terraform mowers when we start mowing grass here soon.
We had a sponsor dinner Thursday night. We could not do this without our sponsors. And because of the public just not being able to come out and enjoy the things we would normally have for them, I've asked Dorothy to try to come up with some type of other event where we want to give those sponsors their due. We appreciate them and give a chance for the public to see those companies that invest in our community, invest in Atoka. But we are very appreciative to them. That's all I've got. Board?
One thing, Mayor, last week we had a very tragic incident that hurt and killed one of our most precious citizens. I think I can speak for everybody to say that, our hearts and prayers are with you. And to the police, fire, and other responders that made that scene, I'm sorry you had to see that and deal with it, and our prayers are with you as well.
Yes, sir.
I would like to discuss, I believe it was the February utility billing, we had a Microsoft glitch. It was no fault of town staff, but due to a software glitch, we've been heavily promoting you guys to go e-billing because it's safe and town money. But unfortunately, sometimes these things happen, and we had a glitch, and a lot of people didn't get their bills, right? And we in our current policy, it states that, hey, if we get it, sometimes you cannot trust the post office, right? You all know you're supposed to get your utility bill. If you don't get your utility bill, maybe you make a phone call. But there are some business clients I get that have multiple accounts. I personally never got my bill, but I am set up on auto pay, right? So the only way I knew what my bill was by checking my bank account. But I would entertain a motion for anybody that was disconnected due to the fact they did not get a bill due to this glitch, that we refund that just for goodwill.
Second.
How are we gonna know?
Yeah, I mean, how do you
who didn't
distinguish
get it?
between a late payment that they did get their bill and a late payment that they didn't get their bill?
You can audit computer logs.
We should be able to do that somehow.
I mean, I'm looking to,
Which one do we pay for that software,
I'm
right?
looking to you, Rachel.
You can audit.
Cause you got a confirmation on emails of how many bills went out.
So when the e-bills went out, we did get a confirmation saying that 1,571 emails went out. But once on cutoff at 9 o'clock in the morning, when that service fee is applied, it gets applied to everyone that has a balance over $25. Like there's no, within our billing software, there's no way to determine who.
Well, you don't know why they were late.
No. Like there's no way to determine it.
Could I amend the motion to say anybody that's on e-bill that got cut off? If you're on a paper bill, we probably got it.
I agree, I got my paper bill. I agree.
Yeah.
If they haven't updated it. or changed from e-bill back to paper. Cause I know we had a couple people that wanted to change back,
Right,
so.
because of this, yes.
Right, like, it didn't increase a whole lot, I think we had maybe 10, but not knowing what they were previously set up on, it would just show me when I run a report that they're set up on paper. And wouldn't show me when they switched. And I can pull a whole report and see everyone that gets e-bill, but if those few that switched over to paper, I wouldn't know that they were on e-bill up until yesterday, if they called today to change.
How much is the fine for late payment on e-bill?
So on the 11th, a 10% penalty is added to the bill total. And then at 9 a.m. on the 21st, a $50 service fee is applied. For anything over 25.
I mean, if there's just a few people who went from e-billing back, well, that's on them, you know. But I agree with John, I mean, this was our mess up and we need to try and make it right.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Hart, we have a second by Alderman Jennings. Would you restate, just so we know
Sure.
exactly what you want?
I would like to offer a refund to any.
Credit, this would be a
A credit, yes, to their water and sewer account for the actual cutoff or reconnect fee. For any of our clients that were on e-bill, got cut off, because more likely than not, they never got a bill.
Okay. Well, we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion?
Do we know how much that amount is gonna be before we vote on it? Do we know if these people have history of missing their bills before we vote on it? I think that forensic needs to probably be done, is we take a look and see if they have a history of it. Well, listen, while you're in the business of giving back all this money, Brett, why don't we just make sure what we do
Hold on,
first?
man. Hold on.
What difference does it make?
It
If
could
we
be-
didn't, if we did not send out the bill, they didn't get it, it's
And if
not
they have
their
a
fault.
history of not paying their bill,
I don't see where that makes a difference.
well, I do.
Well, you can vote how you
Yeah.
want to.
So-
Can we get council's opinion on this?
Yeah, if she's got one.
I think if you start to do a forensic analysis into customer bills, that it probably gets into the charter provision that says that aldermen are not supposed to get into the day-to-day operations of the town. I think a good solution is probably to determine the amount y'all are talking about overall, like who paid cut-off and/or late fees for last month, and then determine if it's an easy solution to waive those fees as a whole, rather than to try to expend staff time ferreting out what this one is related to and what that one is related to, because I suspect what you're gonna find is the amount of money that y'all are talking about is probably a reasonable amount, and you may end up with more staff time invested than the money that you're talking about waiving. That's my opinion.
So your suggestion is, rather than delve into just with Alderman Harper's
This is
motion.
a one-time.
If you're on e-billing and you receive a late fee, that will be credited back. Period.
I think
Done.
y'all probably need to know the amount.
I would love to know the amount, but I don't have a vote, so. But anyway, we have a motion, we have a second on the floor, and we've had discussion. So we will go down, starting on my left, we'll do a roll call vote. Alderman Poole.
Yes.
Alderman Schaefer.
Yes.
Alderman Jennings.
Yes.
Alderman Hart.
Yes.
Alderman Deitch.
Nope.
Alderman Langsy.
Yes.
All right, so that motion carries, and staff will get on to that, and is it too late to get it in next month's bill, or?
It can be before, when we bill out on the 25th of April. It should be in there
There will be a credit, okay.
at $50.
And again, you had to be on e-billing, and you had to have paid a late fee and/or a penalty. Or maybe
So
a
if they were
bonus.
on cutoff, they did pay that 10%
Yeah.
So if they made it to 9 AM on the 21st, they paid that 50. So that's
Okay.
the only thing that
That's what
is
we're
the
talking,
50.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Can we find out at the next meeting what that number was that we refunded?
Yeah. Any other items from the Board of Aldermen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Alderman Poole.
I just want to thank everyone for their understanding during my loss. For the last two meetings, I wasn't here. I want to apologize for not being here because I strongly believe that family is first. But I want to thank everybody, special thanks to Chief Rudolph, staff up front, the board, everyone, all the employees that showed their compassion and everything. I just wanted to make sure that I thank everybody, the citizens, and all. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Mr. Administrator.
Yeah, I really had just one brief item that I wanted to take a moment, Mayor, you've already done this to some extent, was to take a moment, recognize the incredible job that our team did with the Barbecue Fest this year. It was a team effort and everybody stepped up and did their part. A lot of us were anxious about the severe weather that we had to deal with. But along with pre-planning for the event and how we would handle the weather, to proactive communication to the teams, Dorothy made the call when it needed to be made, and so credit goes to her. But these events don't come together without a lot of behind the scenes work from a lot of different departments. All of our department directors participated to support the event, along with a lot of help from their team. So I just want to say thank you to them and everybody who pitched in to make it a success. And I know that Mr. Suter's not here tonight, but Mr. Suter has been Thank you to Henry Suter for helping with the safe room. It's been an enormous help. And it looks like he'll be helping us out in the future. So thank you to Mr. Suter. That's all I have, sir.
All right. Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Have a motion, do I have a second? Second. You need to know who that was?
Yes.
Motion by Alderman Poole, second by Alderman Lightsey.